Well, welcome to February and welcome to the February edition of Ask Antar. I am Melissa Faith Payne, your amazing host for this show. I never say that.
Yeah, I don't know that it's necessary, but
We are joined, of course, by the mayor. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you. Thank you. Look forward to our conversation as usual. Yeah.
So this time we got a bunch of questions.
Okay.
A lot of them kind of center around many of the same topics. So I'll just kind of jump right in and throw some of these questions out. And again, thank you to anyone and everyone who has emailed us your questions, and we try to group them together and make sure we get as many answered as possible. So one question, the first question is surrounding trash on 220, and this person is saying, why is there so much trash on the interstate going around I-220?
Yeah. Well, I think there are a combination of things, not only a spirit of entitlement where people dump things, but it's often vehicles that are unsecured with whatever load that they have, and things typically fall off. The interstate system is actually controlled by Mississippi Department of Transportation. And so they are, not that we don't try to coordinate and support the efforts, but they have that direct responsibility, not over the maintenance of the highways for the roads themselves, but also the cleanup and the cutting of the grass. I will say that, just like many of our divisions, they're working with limited resources and trying to make do. I do have constant conversations with Commissioner Simmons about those issues. And he's also tried to work with some surrounding churches and communities to organize cleanup efforts. We do have a want for more, in addition to the want for not only community organizations, and I want to shout out, community groups that have worked, and I'm forgetting my good friend's name. He's a realtor in the area. Who has organized cleanup on 55 near North Jackson and supported that on his own. We're also trying to finish an agreement with MDOC so that we can have inmates to help with the cleaning there. And so the city will have to pay $50,000 in order to augment the services. Wow. And we're doing all that we can, but I do want to make it clear that when you're talking about interstates, anything on the interstate, then that is actually controlled by the state, and that's controlled by the Mississippi Department of Transportation.
How frustrating is it, though? I mean, because a lot of people don't know that. So it's like, why can't the mayor clean the streets on the highways?
Yeah, well, I think it's always helpful to know who has direct responsibility, but at the same time, I try to resist the feeling of frustration with that, because people just want to see their communities cleaned up, right? People just want to see solutions to the problems that they see each and every day. So I don't blame them for wanting those things. I want them to be informed that, sometimes it's not as easy of a decision as to just, point and direct my hand in those things, because I don't have direct control over those things. Or even if we send out our limited crews without the resources to protect them, while they're on a highway, right? Picking up on a highway is a different process than picking up on a neighborhood street, right?
Speaking of picking up on a neighborhood street, though, this weekend you spent some time outdoors. Did you roll your sleeves up? Were you out and about?
Well, I want to, thank Representative Fabian Nelson, our solid waste team, and a number of other organizations that organized the community cleanup in South Jackson. I had nothing to do with the planning, right? I don't want to claim that. He simply sent me a text message and asked me, he invited me to the cleanup, and, hey, I was blessed to have the time. And so I was most encouraged that, the number of people there, you not only had those organizations and representatives that were working, but you had Jackson State students. I believe you had Tougaloo students out there as well, that were all working to make their community clean, or to clean up their community. Those are the type of things that we really need to broadcast more, so that, it's encouraging and people know that there are people who love Jackson and want to see the best out of Jackson. My message that day was not only a message of, our unity in cleaning up, but a message of let's make sure that we're unified and not throwing the trash down in the first place.
Yeah.
Often it's not the people who are actually engaged in the cleanup who are responsible for throwing it down, but we have to create a new culture, right? And I do want to recognize that, and I know this definitively because our solid waste team is constantly cleaning dump sites, that we know that it's more than Jacksonians that are dumping in our city. And so whether it's a contracting community, whether it's people who think that it's just an easy place to dispose of what they want to dispose of, our police department is working overtime. They actually have a task force, a limited task force dedicated to illegal dumping. We're putting cameras in certain locations. And so we're dedicating as many resources as we can, even when we were looking in terms of garbage contract, I was looking for solutions for that problem. So I want residents to know that this is not something that I miss. It's not something that I don't think of. We're thinking of solutions each and every day. Some of those solutions, for one reason or another, didn't come into fruition, but we're still working hard at it.
Okay. Let's talk about water just a little bit. There's a question about the $40 fee for water availability. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, again, that was something that the city of Jackson did not play a role in. In fact, as it came before the city council, whether they would support an increase in the fee or not, I know they didn't vote for it. If memory serves me correct, they may have abstained from that vote, and that was something implemented by Jackson Water, right? So again, right now the operations and control of the Jackson Water system is maintained by Jackson Water, which is not an entity of the city of Jackson. It is an independent third-party entity. In some regards, I see it as a regressive tax. So instead of, the fee being based on utilization, which, people who have, more fixtures, people who have sprinkler systems, people who have swimming pools, typically use more water than individuals who don't have those amenities in their home.
Right.
And it's a regressive tax because when you provide or charge $40 across the board for utilization, someone whose bill may only be $60 a month, right, has, substantially increased what their bill is each and every day. So they've gone from $60 to $100, and those individuals usually it impacts more. So I have my own questions and concerns about that fee, and whether it is the most equitable way of dealing with the cost of water bills. But to answer the question, that was not implemented by my administration. It was not implemented by the city of Jackson in any regard.
Okay. And the best place for them to get information will be Jackson Water.
Jackson Water, yeah.
Okay. I think this is a good place to stop. So we're going to take a quick break. Stick with us, and we'll be back with more of your questions coming up in just a few moments. So this question is about homebuyer assistance. And this young lady says she is looking to find out about the homebuyer assistance program that the city offers and how can they apply. So
Absolutely. Well, first I would direct them to our planning and development department, but I will tell them what is the purpose of the program. So this is a program that we have fostered for first-time homebuyers. If memory serves me correctly, and there may be potentially more with other outside partners, but we're providing up to $30,000 for first-time home buyers in the city of Jackson. There are some requirements in terms of how long you live in your home. And the purpose of the program is to not only encourage more home ownership, to bring residents into the city, but we've learned through recent data that the majority of our residents are actually renters, right? So we want people to be able to obtain or make the dream of home ownership more attainable for them. And that fosters a number of things, right? People's lease on life is different when they are vested into the community. And so the level of security that children and people associated with the family have is different when they are invested in the community. But also, if we're able to increase more homeowners, then the byproduct of that is that it allows for more developers to see the market for investment in building more homes. We've seen in recent years actually more residential developers come to Jackson. We have a residential development going on in Livingston Place, where they're talking about building 200 rooftops at market value. That increases the value. Sometimes the challenge with building or bringing more residents into Jackson is that we don't have enough new rooftops for people to move into, right? And you have young professionals, for example, that are looking for a place to start. We know that the school systems are a part of the process in which people look at where they will live. We've seen, remarkable change and progress in our school systems. And so we want that progress to go hand in hand so that we can see more people live in the city of Jackson. We didn't find ourselves in this position overnight, and consequently we won't get out of it overnight. But we have to put the building blocks in place to ensure that we not only have new homes, that we not only have a sound school system, but we're creating the total community that people want to live and raise their families in.
The planning director just last week or the week before was talking about, you talk about living in Jackson, a nice green space in downtown, and some development there. How excited are you about that?
I'm excited about anything that helps the continuity of downtown Jackson function better, right? And when we look at development, we not only look at whether we're able to build new buildings for new business opportunities, whether we're able to bring retail into the city. What we're trying to do is look at the psychology of development. If you find more spaces or you're able to create more space for people to congregate or enjoy events, then likely the byproduct of that is that you have more people hanging around to spend money in the city. We have a number of people that come into downtown Jackson each and every day, not only because we're the seat of government and a lot of people work for the state government, but we have several college institutions here in or around Jackson. Right. And so what we have to be focused on is while we have people coming into the city, we have to do a better job of capturing their wealth while they're here. And part of the capturing of their wealth while they're here is making sure that we look at the psychology so they don't just go into work, get in their car, and drive away, right? That we have things that allow them to want to stay around. And the more that they stay around, the more they say, listen, I don't want to fight against this traffic. Let me buy my groceries in Jackson. Let me stop and get gas in Jackson. Let me get a meal in Jackson. Yeah. All of those things are byproducts of, creating an environment which is conducive to people hanging around the downtown area.
Okay. And we've heard lots of questions about this. This is in line with questions surrounding the website, the city website. And this question is, or it's a bunch of them, but who's in charge of the website, and when will the upgrades be complete with missing information available, like the city council agendas and whatnot, and what was the reason for the upgrade?
So the website is controlled by our information technology department. Let me start by first recognizing and apologizing for the frustration that residents have experienced. It is not user-friendly at the moment, right? And so I want to first, make individuals who have gone to the website, I want them to know that I recognize their frustration with that. The upgrades were done at the advice of our IT director for a more compatible company with the city of Jackson. And unfortunately, at the time that we made the decision to switch, our former company didn't actually do a true migration, right? of the information from, one server or one platform to the next. And because we didn't have a true migration where, things were organized and, systematically placed in their right space, they're having to go through the website and, over time, take things. I think the explanation or the example that was given is as if everything was dumped into a trash can,
Yeah.
and you had to, dust it off and put it into its right place. So my prayer is that, that problem be resolved sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
But we do recognize the challenge. We are working hard on it. And unfortunately, we didn't have a sound or usual migration of the data.
I think Dr. Reed, who's the IT director, said that one thing you can do is put it in the search bar.
Yeah, so, that's what I would offer at this time. Again, I don't ever want to take an approach where, we tell people that the sun is shining and everything is rainbows and sunshine, when there are some challenges that certainly exist and opportunities to improve. And so that's one where, we're pushing to get that resolved as soon as possible, but I did want to provide clarity as to why it is having the challenges that it's having.
Okay, doke. Let's see. A question about Brook Hollow. Wanted to know, can they get a bus line out there?
So, that was a part of a process where we brought community in to talk about the routes, and maybe we needed more representation from the South Jackson or Brook Hollow subdivisions or subdivision to talk about the benefit to them. And so the routes were changed. Obviously, routes are dictated by the resources, number of buses, number of drivers, proximity to other stops. So it's something that we can have them look into. But, when we have these think tanks, when we have these discussions where we invite community, and I remember not only at press conferences, I remember at a number of engagements, I remember that we were actually passing out flyers in neighborhood meetings asking people, hey, JTRAN is looking to, have its route, a route study, right? So that we can plan around these things. We had to make the decision of whether we make routes longer, right? Or whether we extend hours on the weekends. Those were the type of things we were discussing so that we could look at our workforce, we could look at, the capacity of JTRAN and fit the needs of the ridership. And so, I know definitively that the routes that are currently planned were certainly influenced by community. And I'm not saying that we can't go further and try to influence it more. But it's a lot easier in its initial stage than it is switching the plan,
Right.
once it's been implemented. But, I hear the concern. I will lift it up to MV. I will lift it up to JTRAN. I don't want to falsely promise something that may take a little time before it can happen, but I will lift that up.
Okay. All right. Well, this seems like a great place to take another quick break. So stick with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Okay, so I'm going to say these series of questions. I'm going to ask one, but there were several on here. This question, this person says they spoke with the executive director of MDOT. They spoke with Willie Simmons, who's the central commissioner, regarding the lights that are out on the highways here in the city of Jackson. And why can't the city repair all those lights that need attention? And she talks about on the highways and the byways that it's dark in many places.
Well, I would hope that those conversations with those individuals would have revealed that the city does not control, nor is that our property to maintain. So the city doesn't replace those lights. That would be replaced. If it's on the highway, it would be replaced by the state transportation authority, which would be Mississippi Department of Transportation. Now, I will say that we've had a number of discussions, right? So that she understands, or whoever, I think you said she, understands that her concern is our concern. And I understand what some of those challenges have been. There was a ring of copper thieves that were stealing the copper out of the lights, and that's why many of the lights went out. We even worked along MDOT to coordinate a plan of how we, would catch or, lessen the attractiveness of stealing copper out of these highway lights. And so we still are working towards that. Now, it is my understanding that they've made an announcement recently that they plan to change out those lights soon. But the city does not control the lights. Now, when there is investment in new lighting down a new thoroughfare, the city may put up the money for the lights to be installed around a new thoroughfare. But once that happens, then that lighting is maintained, for example, by Entergy, right, the power company. One of our new investments is down Highway 18 near Thousand Oaks Drive. This is a project that we've been working on for some time. I have to give credit to a few people who have lifted this issue and this concern up for a number of years. First, I'd have to recognize former council member, now Transportation Commissioner, DeKeither Stamps, who talked about that issue, and we accepted that challenge. Then Councilman Brian Grizel, after DeKeither left, he continued to lift up that concern that the community wanted. And so I just want the community to recognize concern heard, right, and concern or solution met, right? And so, that took, a substantial investment to make that happen, right? And so we've taken some of our funding in order to have those installed. I think that the community is now enjoying those lights that are now on that thoroughfare. We will soon have a ribbon cutting, just in recognition of the hard work and dedication towards that. And so, there was initial investment to the city to have the poles actually put into the ground. And we've also had meetings with Entergy. I want the residents to know that we've had meetings with Entergy about lights that are out. They've given, suggestions as to how people can let it be known. We've asked for a database, right? And it's probably time to follow back up with them. A database of all of the lights that they know are out so that we can track, right? Because what gets measured gets done, right? So that we can track, how many lights we know are out today, right? And then follow back a month from now and see if we have the same number or if we're making substantial progress. And so those are the type of discussions we've been having to, make sure that we have a partner that we're working with to solve a challenge that many of our residents are speaking towards.
The Thousand Oaks, that's a big accomplishment. When you look back over your time as mayor, you've been mayor 8 years or about. When you're looking back over your time in office and you have to think about maybe an accomplishment that you're most proud of, is there one or two or three that kind of stick out?
Well, let me say this. Everything that we're able to accomplish is done by more than just myself. There's a team of people that I'm grateful for. One of the things I'm most proud of is the team that we've assembled, right? People that I think not only are gifted and have the intellect and acumen to do their jobs, but they're sincere, right? And that's important to me. I want to look across at Lewis Wright, who used to work with Entergy and has a reputation in the community for supporting and helping people. I want to look across at Dr. Safia Omare, who not only has been a professor at Tougaloo and Jackson State, but work in the area of grants for Jackson State in order to bring, substantial programs to Jackson State, and also served as my father's chief of staff. I want to look across at Fidelis Malinbeka, who has been instrumental in becoming the first city CFO, who was instrumental in helping change the market for McDonald's corporations in the Jackson area, which before he started working was considered one of the worst markets in the country, and was able to change that. And then later working for Piney Woods Country Day School, right, to support, and even you, Melissa, right, have helped our efforts in terms of communication. So that's something that I'm proud of. But through the work of our team, I could mention, being able to save our school district, right, which there were some people, even people who represent us on the state level, who said that you didn't have any ability to stop a state takeover of our school district. Or I could point to the $90 million that we recovered from Siemens and their exploitation of our city. Or the 600, and depending on other appropriations, almost $800 million that we received from the federal government in order to support our water system. Or I could point to the fact that we've paved more miles of road than any other administration in more than 30, almost 40 years, right, combined, right? So I hear residents when they say, listen, I'm still riding on a bad street. I hear residents when they say, I'm still dealing with flooding, and we've even dedicated a stream of funding to flood mitigation. And while we certainly aren't satisfied and we'll work towards, resolving those things, what should be encouraging to them is that by leaps and bounds, we've been far more successful, right, than anyone in recent memory. And that's because I believe we have a collective view on how we focus on those things. We work with community, we work with others so that we can find solutions to those problems. And so those that want to distract, those that don't want to see progress continue, will often try to point to the thing that hasn't happened, but they will very rarely mention the litany of things that has happened, right? And if you really focus on the litany of things that have happened, it's not so that we're boastful, it's not that we have our chest out and are prideful, it's so that we have a reason to be encouraged that the things that haven't happened are sure to be done.
All right. I think that's a great place to stop.
All right.
So we are all out of time. Thank you so much for joining us. If you do have questions, make sure that you head to the website. You might need to type in Ask Antar to lead you there, or you can go to our social media pages and post your questions there. We print them up, and then we'll ask him, and we'll see you guys back here next month.
All right.